My first time playing at the Lodge Card Club in Austin, Texas was just about 3 years ago when I first started this poker YouTube channel, and over that time I've played on all 4 different locations of the Lodge livestream as it has grown, and it's been awesome to see the stream and production value get better and better over the years. I've played 5-5, 5-10, 10-25 many times on the stream, but I'm back today for something different. I've been wanting to push myself to play bigger games, and today that is what I'm going to get, a 50, 100, 200 game against some of the biggest action players in Texas and some well-known players as well. I'm risking $100,000 for this game and starting off with a $30,000 buy-in. This could either go very well or very bad. Only time will tell. Let's go. The first time I put money in the pot is hand number 8. Nit game is on and J-Win opens the button to $600 versus an open by J-Win who could be pretty wide with the nit game on. I decided to 3-bet King 5 of diamonds in the small blind to $2,000, thinking that J-Win will give me a lot of respect, potentially take this one down pre-flop, get rid of my nit button, and win this pot. Mariano has different plans. He wakes up with a very nice suited Broadway cards and puts in a cold 4-bet to 4.4K. Obviously, this is a pretty strong play, but he could be picking up on the fact that J-Win opened and I'm 3-betting out of the small blind. Our ranges could be quite wide here, but with King 5 of diamonds, I'm just dominated a lot of the time out of position. So once J-Win folds, I fold, and we lose the first pot. Hand number 12, J-Win opens early position, under the gun to $600. 6-5 of clubs next act for me. I would be folding these cards in a tough Vegas game or a Euro-infested Florida game. But in this game, I want to make the call, try to get in there. Also, with Mariano on my left, if I can get through him, none of the other players seem to be 3-betting very often, so I do think I can see a flop, which is exactly what happens. Folds all the way over to Trick Time in the $200 straddle, who completes with 9-5 offsuit, and we go 3 ways in position to ace, ace, 5. All in all, pretty great board. I flop a pair, which is hard to do. If someone has an ace, I'm drawing pretty much dead. If they have an overpair, I'm drawing pretty much dead, but I am beating all Broadway cards, all suited connectors. So when J-Win checks, after Trick Time checks, I think my hand definitely wants to bet, and I think I want to bet big just to try to deny equity from those overcards that can come to beat my pair. So I make it $1,300. Trick Time makes the call and J-Win folds his pocket 8s. Heads up now to the turn, which is the 10 of clubs, bringing me a flush draw. Once Trick Time calls on the flop with J-Win behind, that's pretty strong. He can easily have a bigger pair than mine or an ace, so I'm going to check this one back. Going to the river, though, which improves me to the 8 of clubs. This card giving me a runner flush. That is what I'm talking about. Against Trick Time, if he bets big on this river, I would probably just call, but he checks over to me, so I'm going to bet big myself. I make it $4,200, which in my mind was a pot-sized bet. I was slightly off. Versus Trick Time, who does not shy away from making hero calls. I think it's good to go big when you have value. If he has an ace, he's going to be calling. If he's got a 5, he might call. If he's got pocket 7s or pocket 9s, or even king high, he may call this big bet. He thinks for a while and eventually flicks in the chip. 6-5 of clubs is good to win our first pot here at the Lodge. Over $16,000 going our way. We also get rid of our nit game button. So far, so good. With a $35,000 stack up 5K early on, clue raises under the gun. I've got King Queen offsuit in the big blind, a hand that I would definitely 3-bet versus a later position raise, but from an under the gun raise, I think calling is fine given the fact there's an ante as well. Definitely don't want to be folding. 3-betting could be fine. Calling can be fine. I elect to call. Mariano calls as well. And we're going 3 ways here. I am first act to a 9-9-10 board, giving me 2 overcards and a gutshot straight draw to the nuts. I check. Surprisingly, Mariano leads out for a 1/3 size pot bet of $500. Clue calls 500. I'm getting a great price, drawing towards the nuts straight. So I make the call, and we hit the miracle turn card with a jack, giving me a straight. I check, Mariano now checks, and Clue fires out a $1,000 bet. The question now is, do we raise and spring the trap, or do we just slow play and call? I think with Mariano behind me, who can easily have a 10 here, calling could be fine, allowing him in the pot as well, and also calling can be good to keep Clue's worst hands in there, like Queen Jack, King Jack, pocket queens, pocket kings, pocket aces. All those hands are just drawing so slim towards me. There's also not a flush draw on board. So I think just calling here, allowing worse hands to continue to fire on the river, and then going for a check raise then is the plan. So that's what I decided to do. I call 1,000. Mariano folds, so we're going heads up to a complete brick in the deuce of clubs. Now, obviously, with the board being paired, we don't have the complete nuts here. We're losing to some full houses, although it's pretty hard for him to have a 9 here. He's only probably opening hands like 8-9 through Jack-9 suited preflop. Could have pocket 10s or pocket jacks, but we really don't lose to many full houses from his under-the-gun raising range. So when he fires out a $3,000 bet, our hand is an easy check raise for value now. If he were to put out a bigger bet, like a pot-sized bet, or over a pot-sized bet, I would be tempted just to call. But versus this $3,000 bet, got to go for value versus a slow play 9, a hand like Jack-10, Ace-Jack, or an overpair. So I spring the trap now with my straight and bump it up to $13,000. After I make this raise, I just think to myself, hell yeah, I'm going to have over a 50K stack once he makes this call. I'll be up over 20K on the day until he goes all in. He 3-bet jams all in on this river for around $11,000 more. My excitement turns to fear when I feel like it's possible we could be beat here. Maybe he's got a full house. Back over to me. Pot is huge, not much more for me to call. I've got a super strong hand. I have no idea what to do. Like I said earlier, I am obviously losing to some full houses, but there just isn't that many full houses available. Given the fact that he raised under the gun, 9-10 suited and Jack-9 suited are viable options, but there's only one combination of 10-9 suited, which is 9-10 of clubs, and only one other combination of Jack-9 suited, which is Jack-9 of hearts. So I lose to 2 combinations of that. I just really don't think he's raising Jack-9 offsuit or 10-9 offsuit under the gun when there's no nit game on, so we can discount him from having those hands. Pocket 10s, pocket jacks, and pocket 9s do beat us, but it's pretty hard to flop quads. It's also hard to flop a full house and turn a full house. We are beating a lot of hands that he could potentially play this away with. Hands like 7-8 for a lower straight, Queen-8 suited. We're beating hands like Ace-9, King-9, Queen-9, 8-9 for trips, and also chopping against King-Queen for the same straight. I don't really think there's that much to think about. For $11,000 more, to win a $53,000 pot with a hand as strong as mine against this player type, it's a pretty easy call.
It's the call. And Clue's going to double up again.
Good turn.
What did you have?
Yeah, we run into a full house. Jack-9 offsuit, just a sick, nasty cooler. The card that gives me a straight is the same card that gives Clue a full house. And we lose a $53,000 pot, one of the biggest pots I've ever lost in my entire life, and this just sucks, man. This is honestly just really frustrating and kind of demoralizing as well. I had my high-stakes poker debut at Hustler Casino Live last month and lost over $50,000 running like shit, and I come here to the lodge trying to have a positive mental mindset, and the same shit's happening again, getting cooler for over a $50,000 pot. I've got 2 options now. One, I could quit, I could leave, I could be down $20,000 and just call it for the day. Maybe I'm not good enough and I can't hack these high stakes, or I could keep playing and rebuy for more money, and it's definitely going to be the second option. This table is great. There's a ton of action players. There's a lot of money. There's hours and hours left for me to play. I've got a lot of money sitting behind me to play with. So I reach back. I buy in for $20,000. I came here to battle. I may be getting cooler than bad beat, but that's not going to stop me. I'm going to keep playing. Let's get it back. I do get an opportunity to get some back right away when Boots raises. I'm in the small blind with pocket queens. I make it 2,200 and Boots makes the call. Heads up, out of position 2, of course, Ace, King, 7. I bet out here for a small sizing, something that I would do with 100% of the hands that I have in this situation. Boots makes the call. Turn pairs the board, I check. He checks back. And the river gives us a full house with a queen. I bet out for $5,000 trying to target Ace X hands, maybe even unbelieving King X hands. Boots thinks for a long time and eventually folds his top pair. Ugh, gross. Didn't get paid off, but we did get lucky there on the river, and we take down a small pot. We find another nice spot when Jaywin raises. I'm going to cut off now with pocket kings. One pair better. I make it $2,000 to go. This game is huge. $2,000, basically the buy-in at the 5-10 game that I play in Florida. Back over to Jaywin, who thinks and calls. Heads up now to 7-7-6. I think a lot of the time when he calls the 3-bet out of position, he's going to have a lot of strong ace-x hands. Also going to have some middling pocket pairs. So I'm going to bet big on this flop, targeting hands like 8s through pocket jacks. I make it $3,000. Unfortunately, he just has queen jack offsuit. Nothing on this board. He folds, but we win another pot.
He's going to show to get rid of his knit button.
The knit game, aka the stand-up game, is basically just always on in this game, which I think is great. Definitely pumps up the action. With the knit game on again, I have a button. I've got to win a pot. Folds to me in the small blind, queen jack offsuit. I make it $800. And Clue makes the call, same player who got me good with his full house versus my straight. Going here to a flop of king, queen, 6. I flop second pair. All in all, pretty good board for me. I don't expect him to have too many strong kings. Think he would re-raise pre-flop with hands like ace, king, maybe king, jack suited, king, queen. So I decide to bet about half the size of the pot, $1,000. Now, like I said before, knit game is on and Clue has a button in front of him. He's got to win a hand to get rid of his button. So when he calls this $1,000, think he's going to have a wide range of hands. Doesn't mean he's always going to have me beat with a king here. He could have a 6, backdoor draws, could just be floating, trying to bluff me on the turn. So when the second card comes out, the 7 of hearts, I go back and forth whether I want to check here or bet. And I think I want to bet super thin for value. I want to bet for value against his gut shot straight draws, hands like 9-10, ace, jack. Obviously, possibly his worst queen X hands that would call as well. Even hands like 8-6 or ace-6 could call a bet, which he does decide to do. He calls $1,400. Now, after I bet the flop and then bet the turn with second pair jack kicker, I'm going to shut it down on the river unless I improve, which I do not. It's an 8 of diamonds. Brings in some straights, so I decide to slow down now. I check over to Clue, expecting him to check back a decent amount of the time, but he doesn't decide to check back. He decides to bet rather large according to the size of the pot. He makes it $5,200 into around a $6,500 pot, and now I'm in a really tough spot here with second pair. When I'm contemplating making a hero call, I want to think, is my opponent capable of bluffing? And Clue, yes, is capable of bluffing. We're on a live stream, the knit game is on. He's in position against a player he probably perceives as somewhat tight. Can definitely be bluffing with worse hands, but what kind of hands is he bluffing with? I have a jack, so I block him from having hands like jack 9, ace jack. He could have 9-10 for a straight, but that seems a little bit unlikely. I don't think he's betting a king X hand for this sizing. I just don't think he's betting almost the size of the pot with king 10 or king jack. I think he would bet a smaller sizing with that hand. I think he would raise 2 pairs and sets most of the time on the flop or the turn. I don't know. It's kind of a tough spot. If I call and he's got a king, I'm going to look like an idiot. If I fold and he's bluffing, I could look like an idiot as well. I decided to just go with my gut. My gut's telling me he's bluffing, so I close my eyes and make the call.
Like so folds here, he is.
Go with my gut. Might be wrong.
He's going to call.
That guy. Felt like a call there. Nice call by Alexo. That's not an easy call.
Lexo picks him off.
That's a tough one.
All right, we pick off a bluff on a live stream. We win a $17,000 pot. As you can see, I have $43,000 in front of me. After that huge, gross, nasty cooler earlier, I'm in the game for $50,000, which puts me only down $6.5K. I'll take it after losing a $53,000 pot. We are grinding in the right direction, just praying to get back to even. This next hand is definitely an interesting one. $400 straddles on and boots calls $400 in the cutoff with queen 8 offsuit. Jaywin, who's in a very aggressive, solid player who usually raises, calls for $400 in the small blind. I sense a little bit of weakness here, so when I have king queen offsuit in the big blind, I think it's definitely a hand I want to be bumping it up with. King queen is a solid hand versus 2 limps. So I'll make it $2,500 to go. Mariano now with a suited king, cold calls my raise, boots folds, and now Jaywin calls my raise as well. Ace, 6, 7, 2 clubs. I completely miss on this board, but I don't think my opponents will hit this board very often either. I don't think Jaywin ever has a strong ace in this situation. He would always be raising those hands pre-flop. I think Mariano would be re-raising with all hands like ace-10 through ace-king pre-flop, so I c-bet here for $2,500, looking to get smaller pocket pairs to fold and hands like suited broadways or suited connectors to fold out that have some equity. J-Win now check calls after Mariano folds, and now we're heads up in position, $13,000 in the middle to the queen of spades on the turn, giving me second pair best kicker. And like I said before, once J-Win just calls pre-flop, I don't think he really ever has an ace. I just don't think he's playing an ace-x hand like this. So I think we most likely have the best hand here. I think once he calls on the flop, he could have hand like 7-8, could have a hand like 5-6, could have some straight draws and some flush draws. So I think my hand wants to continue to bet for value, a pretty thin value bet here with a queen. But like I said, I just don't think we're going to be beat very often unless he does have pocket sixes, pocket sevens, or 6-7. Just don't think he's going to have an ace here very often. J-Win thinks and decides to call $6,000. At the speed at which J-Win called and his demeanor made me really think now that he does have a smaller ace. It looked like he didn't have a decision. He was just taking his time in order to balance out the times where he did have a decision. So when the river card comes to 3 of clubs, I now switch my thinking from value betting thin to potentially turning my hand into a bluff to try to get him off a weaker ace. I could easily have a flush here, and I consider betting huge, like $25,000, but I don't have a club in my hand. If I had a club, I would be more tempted to put out a big bluff, considering I would block some flushes. I don't think J-Win's going to fold to me very often if he does have an ace. So I decided to give up. I check back, and we do lose to ace-4 of diamonds. Honestly, I was surprised when I saw a hand as strong as ace-4 suited in his limp call range. Pre-flop, I think he would be raising that hand a lot of the time. Could have just given up on the flop and not lost an extra $8,000, but when I c-bet and then turn what's most likely the best hand, I decided to bet thin. Either way, we lose over $10,000 in this hand. Moving on to the next hand where I pick up king-queen again. This time I raise and only boots makes the call. Jack 5-3 with a flush draw that we do not have. Of course, we miss again. The only time we really hit a hand so far today is when we were up against a full house. Okay, no more complaining. When he checks to me, I bet out 1/3 size of the pot, 800, and he makes the call. Turn card pairs the second card, which I think is definitely better for him, considering that he is in the straddle, can have a lot more 5x hands than me, but it's also pretty hard to make trips. Think he can easily have some ace-high hands, some pocket pairs. I'm going to continue now with a double barrel bluff. I make it a pot size bet of $4,000, and we get a small bluff through when boots folds pocket fours and we take down this pot. For hand number 63, I decided to change hats. I've got the Jungle Man bucket hat on that I got last month from Hustler Casino Live playing against Dan Cates. It only cost me $52,000. Ha. I raise ace-10 offsuit on the button to $600. Dylan calls, and Terrace, who we haven't played a pot with yet, re-raises me out of the straddle to $2,400. Now, from what I've seen from Terrace over the last 2 years, he is not shying away from putting in big bets pre-flop and post-flop and on the river with bluffs and some mediocre hands. So with a hand like ace-10, button versus straddle with a big blind call in between, I think my hand could definitely do well with a 4-bet. I decide to re-raise again to $6,500. I'm trying to play a pot in position against Terrace. Seems like a player I definitely want to try to play some big pots with. Back over to Mr. Terrace. As you can see, we do have the same hand here. He thinks, raises his eyebrows, and then flicks in a bubblegum 5K chip. So just like that, we're playing a 4-bet pot, $13,000 in the middle. Mariano wants to sweat my hand, so I let him see. And we get a pretty good flop of 10, Jack 3, all diamonds. I flop second pair and the nut flush draw, most likely the best hand. So like I said, I've watched Terrace a lot, and he likes to bluff. He likes to get after it. If he senses weakness, he may pull the trigger in some big pots. So I decide to bet super tiny on this flop. I make it $1,500 to go. Basically, I just don't think he ever has a bigger pair than me, like queens, kings, and aces. Think he would always re-raise those hands pre-flop. Could have a jack, but I think a lot of the time we're going to have the best hand. And by betting small, maybe it will induce him to blast off and bluff with a hand like ace-queen, with a hand like pocket sevens with a diamond, all hands that he's basically drawing pretty thin against. My plan doesn't work though. Terrace does not blast off, he just makes the call with his second pair. Turn card's an 8, he checks over to me, and in a 4-bet pot with second pair, with all diamonds on the board, I think it's a little too thin to continue to bet. So I check back, river card, double pairs to board. He checks, I check back, and as expected, we end up chopping this one up.
3-bet pot? Oh, sorry.
I just want to break this one.
Go.
Terrace raises, Boots calls, I re-raise $2,500 with ace-10 offsuit in the big blind. Terrace makes to fold, but Boots double calls, indicative of a lot of middling to smaller pocket pairs. So out of position in a 3-bet pot to queen 7-2 to diamonds. I could c-bet here or I could check. Without a diamond in my hand, I decided check, balancing this out with some checks I may have with pocket 8s through pocket jacks, weaker queen x hands, and even hands like aces and kings with a diamond. Boots checks back, which I feel like he would do with all of his smaller pocket pairs, and when the turn card comes a queen, I'm going to start a bluff now. If I did have hands like 8s, 9s, 10s, and jacks that checked on this flop, I would definitely be betting here for value. So I'm going to start doing that now with my ace high as a bluff, trying to get him off some smaller pocket pairs. I make it $2,000, and Boots makes the call. River card is a king. This is a great bluffing card, but Boots knows that this is a great bluffing card for me, so I think he's going to be hero calling me a little bit lighter, because if I bet this river, I'm pretty polarized to having hands like ace king, king jack, and king 10, which isn't that many hands. Now, if I bet a pot size bet or over a pot size bet, he may think that I'm definitely bluffing and make a hero call. So I decide to level this one out and play some leveling wars here and decide to bet small, 1/3 size of the pot, $3,500, thinking that this small bet will make it seem like I'm rooting for him to call. This is a bet that I may make with a hand like king jack or king 10, or a hand like pocket aces with the ace of diamonds, even a hand like pocket jacks trying to get called by a worse pocket pair. I want him to think that I want him to call, and maybe he'll level himself into folding a smaller pocket pair. I think if I bet huge, like a pot size bet, he would actually be more likely to hero call. Now, the only problem with this small bet is that he's getting a great price to call with hands like pocket 5s, pocket 6s, pocket 8s, and pocket 3s. So I'm not sure if I like this bet or not, but I feel like a lot of the time it's going to get through. Earlier, Boots folded top pair to me. He thinks for a little bit of time, cuts out the chips, looks like he's going to call, and then looks like he might fold. Of course, I'm rooting for a fold, but unfortunately, he makes a call. Ace high is no good. Pocket 3s wins this pot. And I end up losing around $16,000 worth of a pot here with a bluff. I'm in this game for $50,000, and after this miss bluff, I'm down to a $23,000 stack. That is minus $27K on the day. At one point, I was only down $6K. Sitting down in this massive game, I'm putting it all on the line, and I'll admit, it wasn't a bad beat. I got outplayed, but I know I'm good enough to sit at this table. It's not a frickin' pipe dream. I had to see if I was good enough, so I took my seat today. I mean, hell, they're just giving money away at this table just to say that they played on the Lodge live stream. I know, you gotta have at least 100 to 200K to play right in this game. Well, I've got 25K, and I'm here to battle. After this pot, I'm heads up in the Nick game versus Mariano to my right. I've been losing all day, and I'm on the verge of losing another $3,000 if I lose this Nick game. It folds all the way to me in the $200 straddle, with Mariano in the $400 straddle. The loser of this hand pays the 3K penalty out to the table. I call $400. Call $400, you may ask. You must have wired aces or kings. No, rags. I have nothing. And of course, Mariano tries to bully me and re-raise. And I just decided, you know what? I don't care about the money. I'm just going to outplay the guy. I'm just going to outplay this guy this hand. So I'll re-raise. I make it $4,500 to go. And of course, Mariano won't be pushed around, so he makes the call for $4,500, and just like that, we're playing a 4-bet pot out of position with 8-2 offsuit to a flop in the Nick game to Jack 9-9 rainbow. I can still have all the big overpairs, and so far this session, I've been doing a lot of limp folding versus Mariano, blind versus blind. This is the first time that I limp re-raised him. I think he's going to give me a lot of credit for some big hands. So I decided to continue here for $2,300, and Mariano makes the call. The turn card's an ace, a great card to continue to barrel as a bluff, but I actually don't think so versus Mariano. Mariano's a very good thinking player and also pretty sticky. If I continue to bet this ace turn card, I'm representing a super narrow range of ace-queen, ace-king, ace jack and pocket aces. A lot of the time when I limp re-raise pre-flop, I'm going to have some pocket pairs and some ace X holdings in my range. And I feel like I would be checking this turn card with basically 100% of the holdings that I have here in order to pot control and also to induce Mariano to potentially bluff. So that's what I decided to do. I decided to check and Mariano checks back. And the river card is a 9. Now any pair makes a full house. I'm sitting here in a 4-bet pot, $13,000 in the middle with 8 deuce offsuit on an ace jack 999 board. If I check, I'll always lose this pot and I'll lose $3,000 of penalty for losing the Nick game. If I bet, I may get hero called by a king high or queen high hand who most likely always call me with any pair. But I didn't come all the way to Texas. I didn't drive 18 hours to give up here with 8 high. I got to go for it. I got to at least try, so I fire out a $10,000 bet. Now, as you guys know who watch my vlogs, I don't play big games like this very often. This year, I've been really trying to push myself to play bigger games. I usually play 5-10 and 5-10-25. So a $10,000 bet is massive. I never make those size bets at a 5-10 game or a 10-25 game. This is a huge bluff for me. This is a big spot. Unfortunately for me, though, this is not a big spot for Mariano. He plays massive games at the Hustler and at the Lodge, so a $10,000 bet on the river is really nothing for him, but it's a huge bet for me. And as he is tanking, he asks to see my stack, and at this point right here, I was almost 100% sure he was going to make the call. Given the fact that he did not snap fold his hands, I thought that he would tank for a while and call, and I'm just kicking myself at this point. My heart rate is obviously high, but I'm just thinking, man, I'm going to end up losing this pot. I'm going to look like an idiot, punting off my stack with 8-2 offsuit. I'm going to be down over $40,000 and lose the Nick game. I'm going to get posted to his poker vlog and also posted on the Lodge live channel. Why did I decide to do this? Why wouldn't I just fold this hand pre-flop? But as he tanks longer, I'm getting the feeling maybe I can get this bluff through. Mariano now tanks for a very long time, and as the seconds turn into minutes, I come to peace with my decision. My heart rate lowers, and I realize, look, if he calls and I lose, at least I went for it. It was a spot I wanted to go for. I came here to the Lodge to play big pots. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I still have $50,000 of my $100,000 risk that I can continue to play for. It's not the end of the world if he catches this bluff, but he continues to think, and he's giving off the vibes of potentially hero folding. After a few minutes, he moves towards his checks, then looks at me, then looks back at his cards, and looks back at me again, and eventually mucks it, and I take it down. I sat with the best poker vlogger in the world, and I won.
He lays down the boat.
Nice man, man. Nice play. It's a good turn.
Holy hell, the bluff actually worked. I don't lose the Nick game. I build to my stack. I got Mariano to fold a jack. A good, tough player like him, it's tough to bluff him, and we got this one through. He was also a great sport. Told me good bluff. He pays out the table. I add to my stack, and finally in this game, something goes my way. Getting closer to the end of the stream, I add on for $20,000. What a great time to get pocket aces. $50,000 in my stack. $400 straddles on. Trick time races to $1,100. I 3-bet to $3,500. This game is massive. Biggest pocket pair pre-flop versus smallest pocket pair pre-flop. Going to the flop in a 3-bet pot to 5, 6, 10, 2 diamonds. He checks to me. I put out a bet of $2,100, and he makes a call. Turn card's a 4, interesting card, brings in some 2 pairs he can have, brings in some straights he can have. With 1 pair here, I decide to pot control and check this one back. Final card, King of Spades. There's $12,000 in the middle. Last time when I bluffed on the King River, I bet 1/3 size of the pot got called by pocket 3s. Well, this time I have it. I got pocket aces, and I'm going to bet the same sizing. Try to balance this out with the times that I'm bluffing, and when I'm value betting, I make it $4,500. Get snap called by trick time with pocket deuces. Aces are good we win a nice pot here, around $20,000 going our way. One thing that I have to get used to if I'm going to continue to play bigger games like this is the dollar amount swings. I'm used to taking swings of a few $1,000s per hand. In these big games, you're going to be taking $10, $20, $30,000 swings in hands. I have to be able to not let it get to me if I lose a 30 or 40k pot, because I could very easily win a 40 or 50k pot right after. Next up, Jaywin races to 500 under the gun. 8-9 of clubs for me next to act. I think this is a 3-bet or fold hand given this lineup in my position, so I like to go with a 3-bet here to $1,800. I don't really want to go multi-way out of position with a hand like 8-9 of clubs. Would rather go heads up in position or just take this one down pre-flop. Terrace, however, has a re-raise face on, and a re-raise is what he decides to do. He puts in a 4th bet here pre-flop in the small blind to 6,500. Back over to Jaywin, who folds, and now the action's on me. 8-9 of clubs facing a $6,500 4-bet by Terrace. I'm over 300 big blinds deep in position. I think this is a pretty easy call looking to see a flop. When Jaywin opens from early position and I 3-bet, I think Terrace's 4-bet range is going to be skewed of having hands like pocket jacks, queens, kings, aces, ace, king, and maybe ace, queen. So when the flop comes down 6, 9, 10, all spades, I think this is a great board for me. I'm beating hands now like ace, king, and ace, queen, and I do have a lot of equity against hands like queens, kings, and aces. On a super wet connected board like this, the re-raiser wants to check according to the book, but Terrace does not like to listen to the book. He wants to bet. He's a very aggressive player. He makes it $3,000. My hand could go either way with a call or a raise. Could raise to get folds from ace-king, ace-queen. Could potentially start setting up a bluff to get him off queens, kings, or aces. But I like to call, which I think is fine as well. And the turn card's an interesting one. It's a jack, now improving me to an open-ended straight draw, along with a pair. This does bring in pocket jacks for a set, brings in king, queen for a straight. There's $20,000 in the middle, and Terrace now decides to check over to me. Interesting spot. This pot is huge. 4-bet pot. 3rd pair for me. I decided to check, going to the river, which is an 8 of diamonds, giving me 2 pair. However, any 7 makes a straight now, and any queen makes a straight as well. I am liking this 8 giving me 2 pair. I am now beating hands like aces and kings, maybe a hand like king jack suited, ace jack suited, but I'm not too happy with my hand once I see Terrace fire out a $21,000 bet. Alright, let's break this one down. So Terrace 4-bet pre-flop, he bet the flop and checked the turn. I don't think he's ever checking the turn with a flush. I just think he's betting a lot of the time with a flush. Also, in 4-bet pots, it's a little less likely to have suited cards. He's going to have a lot of offsuit, ace-queen, ace-king, and also some pocket pairs. So I don't think he has a flush. I don't think he has a set like pocket jacks, because that would most likely always bet the turn. I do think it's definitely possible he could have a bluff, like a hand like ace-king with the ace or king of spades. Could be a total airball like ace-5 of hearts or ace-4 of clubs. Or potentially turn a hand like aces with the ace of spades or kings with the king of spades into a bluff. Now, just like earlier when I was playing against Clue and I hero called him with queen-jack on a king-high board, is this opponent capable of bluffing? And of course, yes, Terrace is capable of bluffing. Just so far at this table tonight, I saw him pull a suicide bluff against Mariano with queen high for a massive $80,000+ pot. And then I also watched him bet $20,000 on the river against Jaywin with ace king high and get called by a single pair. So Terrace is, of course, definitely capable of betting for this sizing with a bluff. Now let's talk about his bet sizing. He bets a pot size bet on the river. When someone bets the size of the pot, they're usually pretty polarized to a very, very good hand, or they're bluffing. I don't think he has a flush with the reasons I stated earlier. I think he would always bet the turn with a flush. Also, way less likely for him to have suited cards when he puts in a 4-bet pre-flop. I don't think he has a 7, nor would he be betting a 7 for this sizing, because I could easily have a queen. He could easily have a queen here with a hand like pocket queens, ace queen, or king queen. Now, would king queen and pocket queens check the turn? I don't think he would ever check the turn with king queen. Maybe he would check the turn with pocket queens for pot control, but I think he would actually continue to bet the turn with pocket queens if he decides to bet this flop. In my head here, after analyzing the play, I don't think he ever has a flush. I don't think he ever has a 7. I think the only hands I'm really losing to in this situation that would play this way are ace, queen, and maybe pocket queens, but I don't think he checks the turn with pocket queens, so I really only lose to ace, queen. I beat a lot of bluffs. Like I said earlier, against a player like this, he's down over $100,000 on a Texas live stream. I think I have to put my foot down and make the call.
And Terrace is going to take down almost a $62,000 pot with his straight.
Nice. Thank you.
Yes. Sticking to the theme of this vlog, rivering 2-pair in a massive $20,000 pot, and my 2-pair gives my opponent a straight, and I lose a $62,000 pot, the biggest pot now I've ever lost in my entire life. Kind of an annoying spot up against a player who is definitely capable of putting in big bluffs. He actually had it against me, and now we are in the red. I was almost back to even, less than 10K to get to even, and now I'm down around $44,000. We are now down to the last hour of the stream with 5 players remaining. I asked the table, hey, you guys want to bump up the stakes instead of 50, 100, 200? Let's play 100, 200, 400. I'm down over $40,000. The easiest way for me to get my money back is by bumping up the stakes, so that's what we decided to do. 100, 200, 400, 5-handed Texas poker. Terrace raises on the button. I 3-bet to $3,000. In the big blind with ace 10, Terrace makes the call. I completely miss on a jack-high board and check fold. Next up, I re-raise pocket 7s to $4,000. Terrace calls with pocket 9s. I check a jack-high board, bet small on the turn, check back the river, and lose to his bigger pair. And then the last hand of the night, I get pocket jacks in an $800 straddle pot. Huge. Terrace raises to $2,500. I 3-bet to $6,500. He calls queen high board. I bet out $5,000 and he folds, and that is it. 8+ hours on this live stream. I cannot get my way out of the hole. I was super card dead for the last couple hours. Little unfortunate to lose that much money, but I had a great time. I tried to keep a good mindset and a good positive attitude even though I was losing. I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. Well, back at the hotel now. That sucked. I ended up losing $52,300 in the Lodge live stream here in Texas, playing a massive game. Started off with 50, 100, 200, which is a huge game, and everybody had a massive stack. I had like $30,000, and basically the entire table covered me. We were doing stand-up game, we were doing straddles, double straddles. It was massive. I started off there with a little bit of a win against Trick Time. Made a hand against him. I was up like 5K. And when you're playing bigger games and when you're taking shots at bigger games, obviously starting off with a little bit of a win to give yourself a little cushion is great. It's great if you can get up a whole buy-in. So if you lose, you're maybe still even. So I was on the right track. And then I lose a $53,000 pot, getting massively coolered, nut straight versus a full house. That sucked. I mean, I lost $27,000 in one hand. And to come off last month when I played at Hustler, when I lost $52,000 there, I also got stacked twice in the beginning of the game, and I was just trying to claw myself back out. And to come here and have the same situation happen again where I lose a massive pot, I get coolered, or, I don't run well, and then I have to rebuy. It just sucks. It's like, it's not how you want the game to go, but this is the variance, this is the adversity that I have to go through if I want to play higher stakes. So I could have quit. I could have just said, that's it. I'm down 20,000. I'll call it. But I try to have a good mental mindset. I try to get back in there. I try to just play my best. I try not to let that affect me. I came back in, I rebought, and I got pocket queens, I got pocket kings, and I made back some money. I did lose a big pot against Terrace as well when I rivered 2-pair in a 4-bet pot. And I think the thing is when you're playing up against a player like Terrace, so I maybe went into some analysis during the video, but basically Terrace is a complete wild card, a crazy man. He bluffs like crazy. He is a crazy player. You have no idea what kind of cards he has. And when you're playing up against a player like that, you just have to call a lot. You just have to close your eyes and click the call button, because if he's so capable of putting in bluffs and you have a really good hand, you just have to call. If I was up against a Nit, if I was up against a Vegas Pro or a Florida Euro Pro grinder, I would fold my 2-pair. But against Terrace, I don't think you can fold a hand like that, especially when I'm only losing to ace-queen. So basically the only hand I lose to. So lost a big pot there, probably over a $50,000 pot against him. So lost a $53,000 pot, lost a 50K pot off Terrace. So not a good start. I was down heaps. But then I pulled probably my favorite bluff of my life up against Mariano, who I've been watching now for years, and I've been watching his growth. And I wouldn't say that I'm trying to like emulate his trajectory, but of course, like, he has gone from the complete bottom, playing 1-3 Pizza Hut delivery driver, to now playing the high stakes poker, getting to play all these big live streams. I mean, that's pretty freaking awesome. So, you know, I've been watching him for a while. I've been trying to maybe emulate some of his winning strategies as well. So to be able to get into a pot with him and have complete fucking nothing, 8-2 offsuit, and pull a large bluff and get it through and not lose the stand-up game, that was pretty cool. I mean, it was kind of funny though, because we're heads up in the stand-up game. It folds to me. And of course I look down at 8-2 offsuit. I've been so fucking card dead the entire stream. I look down at 8-2 and I'm like, well, I'm going to fold and lose the stand-up game, or I'm going to try to fight for it. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll try to fight for it. And I went for it, and luckily it worked, so I won that hand. That was definitely the highlight of the stream for me. But basically the entire night after that, I just was super card dead, super spot dead, couldn't get into any good spots. Anytime I 3-bet, I got 4-bet. Anytime I opened, I got 3-bet. I never had a good hand, really, except for maybe in the beginning. And that's what's going to happen in poker sometimes. Sometimes you're just going to be, like they say, sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug, you know? And tonight I was definitely, what would I be tonight, actually? Sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug. I think I was the bug, right? Because I was getting crushed. That's just how it is. You know, sometimes you're just cruising through, you're making value hands, you're stacking people, you're coolering people, you're stacking up chips, and then sometimes you're just losing every single pot. Sometimes you raise and they call you, and sometimes you bluff and they call you, and sometimes you value bet and then they fold. That ends up happening, but I feel a different feeling right now, a different feeling compared to what I felt last month at Hustler. Last month at Hustler, I was motivated, I was excited, I was ready to go to play higher stakes again. This time I'm feeling more like let down and like kind of sad and kind of like just bummed, you know, because I don't get these opportunities to play these games very often. I also sell action, so I have investors that are investing in me, and there's no telling how long they'll want to invest or how much money they'll want to invest. So to lose 2 times back-to-back, lose $100,000 in high-stakes poker, it sucks. It could easily have gone the other way. I could have won $100,000 and the trajectory could have went up. But right now, I'm going down. So that sucks. That's definitely a bummer. And it just sucks that I couldn't really run good. I mean, how great would it be if I just cooler some people, if I make some plays and it works, I make some bluffs and it works, I make a few sets and I win like 50K tonight? That'd be great. But you can't dictate the cards. But one thing that I did note that I kind of put together in my head at the end was 50, 100, 200, losing 50K is the same as losing $5,000 at a 5, 10, 20 game. If I had lost $5,000 at 5, 10, 20, it'd be just a normal standard loss. So to lose $50,000 is kind of like a normal standard loss, especially for how big this game was. By the end, we were playing 100, 200, 400. I suggested to bump up the stakes because I was stuck so much money. So at the end, we're playing 100, 200, 400. Everyone covers me at the entire table. The biggest game I had ever played. And to lose 50K is just a standard loss for that game. It's not even really like, it's like 200 big blinds. So it's really nothing. I feel like I played good the entire stream. I feel happy with my decisions. I felt good with my mental mindset. I felt good with my tilt ability, even though I was steaming on the inside. I don't feel like it came out in my play on the outside. And also, the stream ran for 8 hours. It was one of the longest Lodge live streams that they've done. And I think that all contributed to all of our table talk at the table. So I'm not sure if I put this in the video or not. I guess you'll have already seen, but we were doing a lot of prop bets, a lot of side action stuff. So it first started out with myself ordering a Jersey Mike's sub, and I got the mini version because I wasn't that hungry. And when I got it, they didn't cut it in half. It's like a 6-inch sub. They didn't cut it in half. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, why wouldn't you cut the sandwich in half? Mariano was like, they don't cut the minis in half. And I'm like, bro, I've been getting mini sandwiches for the past year, and they always cut it in half. He's like, you want to bet?
Got half of it.
Hang on a second. Who here goes to Jersey Mike's?
Very occasionally.
They don't cut minis in
Every
half.
mini that I've ever had.
No, dude, the regular. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll bet.
Yeah.
We'll bet. How much you want to bet on it?
$500.
That's too much for me.
Okay, 100.
$100.
$100. What?
Wait. Who are you gonna call though? 'Cause if you call the same place, they're gonna say it's not cut in half.
Okay, pick any Jersey Mike's anywhere in the world and say by default, wherever.
Yeah. Well,
Say,
no, because they obviously didn't cut it in half.
okay,
here.
call the one in LA since Lex got one cut in half in LA.
Yeah, L.A. Gardena. Call that one.
And ask what?
Say by default. Yes. Say I'm sorry to bother you. By default, does your mini come cut in half? Down the middle of the mini, or is it just one?
They're gonna say some bullshit. Oh, you can do it. No. So what do you do? Okay, and then we'll do 25 on the side too for her. So he's like,
I don't know what it is. I just want to
I think
gamble.
it's an Italian place. I don't even know.
All right. Well, you
are they?
guys are betting, and
They serve sushi.
Yeah, I get it.
you're taking.
You got your
my
blood
side,
pumping
I'm
a little
taking the
bit.
opposite. All right.
Terrace is like,
I've been
No,
getting the
but
mini
we're
for a
betting
while
on.
now.
She walks in, and she says, "This is the answer."
okay.
Yeah.
That's the
Whatever
problem.
she
though.
says.
I'm with
No
that.
arguing.
No,
No going
no,
like,
no,
wait,
Terrace.
you didn't call
No,
the right
Terrace.
answer.
You're right. Yeah.
Well, here comes Safi.
Yeah.
Whatever you say.
Standardly, no special instructions.
Okay.
They do cut it in half.
God damn it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
You sure?
Give it out. Oh, no.
I win. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
That's unbelievable.
So now Lex would like to.
All right. Let's. Well, you gotta.
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah.
Now that we know that.
So the great sandwich debate has been settled.
Yeah, this place is going to shit, Jersey Mike's.
That's a whack.
And Safi gets a tip
So Clayton, I'm adding 100 to my stack.
for making the phone.
Their standard protocol was to cut the sandwich in half, so I won $100 there. We went on to play other prop bet games. Some of the funny prop bet games we were playing was we all tried to guess Skull Mike's weight, and the closest person won $500 from each person. It's actually like 171.
500 each.
It's 500.
It's 500.
500.
Slick
How much
Rick is
does he
next,
weigh?
by the way.
Oh God. Why's everyone fucking laughing? Say 140 something.
Wait. But wait, if the number that's right ties,
You just split it.
Yeah, chop it up. What's the number?
169.
Oh my God.
what'd you say?
Y'all guess.
Well, you said 168?
168.
Oh my God, me too.
They both.
Wait, do you want to just flip for it?
I came within 4 pounds.
I was a winner of that, I guess 168, and he was 169. We then tried to guess Slick Rick's weight, who's a commentator. Okay, Terrace, what's the
I
weight?
will
World's
guess
smallest violin.
189. 189.
189?
Oh, man.
Look, I'm not
Terrace.
saying it for pity. I'm saying it for, isn't that spooky?
You think he weighs
It is a
20
little
pounds
spooky.
more?
That's what I'm trying to
20
get at
pounds
here.
more than Skull Mike?
I think that's spooky. That's 3 feet.
Terrace.
248.
Oh, I'm pretty close.
Oh, I'm really close. Let's go! Let's go, Rick!
What did he guess?
242. Let's go,
I was
Rick.
237.
And he was too.
I think I guessed 238, and I think he was 247. We then tried to guess the time it would take to drive from New York City to Vegas, and we bet on that. We did another bet where we bet how many unread text messages that the game host has on her phone. And then we bet how many 1-3 games are running at the Aria in Las Vegas. And we did like over under on that. So all in all, it was a great stream. It was awesome people. It was really fun talking. I feel like that the viewership must have been great. I mean, we had over 4,000 people watching for 8 hours, so that's obviously good. Wish I could have ran better, but I feel like if I'm there and I'm not able to play many hands, if I'm not able to get in there with some crazy bluffs or be action or entertaining that way, I want to bring entertainment another way by making jokes, making conversation, doing prop bet games, laughing, talking, whatever. So if I can't play many hands because I'm card dead, I at least want to bring some entertainment the other way, and I'm hoping people enjoy that. I'm hoping I can get to come back here. all in all, my feelings right now are kind of bummed out, kind of sad, kind of annoyed. Wish things could have went better for me. Losing $100,000 in my high-stakes poker debut is not fun, but it's not that much money for high-stakes poker. I could easily get it back in a few sessions. I'm hoping I can play again, but yeah, we'll see. Might take a little break. Maybe I'll come back next month and play a game in LA or here or something like that. But all in all, a little upset, a little annoyed, but feel happy with the way I played. I feel happy with my mindset throughout the game. These games are really high pressure. It is a lot riding on this. It's a lot of money for me. It's a lot of pressure trying to perform. I got people who invested in me. I've got myself that I put pressure on. I have to execute in high pressure situations. So it's tough. It's tough. And when you lose, obviously it's not fun. But, you know, I don't know. Not much you can do about it, but just kind of move on. I've got some interesting stuff coming up next. I'm going to Houston tomorrow. I'm going to play a live stream there at Champions. Going to Beau Rivage in Mississippi. Then back to Florida to play some more live streams. So I got an exciting week coming up. Had an exciting week so far here in Texas. Thank you to the Lodge. Thank you to Skull Mike. Thank you to Slick Rick for commentating. Thank you to the whole staff putting the games together. And letting me and allowing me to play these games, even though I lost $50,000. I'm hoping it was exciting. I hope you guys like this video. I hope to be back here at the Lodge, try to win back my money. We'll see. I'm not giving up my dream yet to be a high-stakes pro. I think it's possible. I think this is a little hiccup. I think this is a little speed bump, maybe more of a hill that I have to climb over. But I think I can get back. I think I can be a winning player in these games. And I think I can be good for the game. And yeah, hope to be back. Hope to continue to play. But please like, please comment, and subscribe. I'm going to eat my McDonald's that I got, and I'm going to eat some chocolate. I'm going to go to sleep and get ready to go to Houston tomorrow. Until next time, I'll see you.